Last year, 2021, one of the best years for the S&P 500 stock performance. And as good as it was, there were only 3 major hedge funds that could beat the performance of S&P 500. Meanwhile, 35 US politicians had no problem beating the S&P 500 at the exact same time. Now, you've probably heard of good old Nancy Pelosi being able to beat the S&P 500. As a matter of fact, there's a Nancy Pelosi tracker that actually tracks her portfolio. It's been tracking it on Twitter to showing you the performance that she's had. And so in this video, I want to break down what exactly was the performance of the S&P 500, where the largest, where the best, the most successful hedge funds in the world stacked up to the performance of the S&P 500. Of course, as I said, didn't beat them. And then, of course, which 35 politicians were magically better than any of the hedge funds out there and where their performance ranked in. And of course, we're going to take a look at what the legality of this and what the majority of Americans think about this. So let's go. All right, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark Moss. I make these videos to change the way you think about money because almost everything you've learned is wrong. Now, today I want to talk about the performance of the S&P 500. I want to talk about the professional money managers, the best hedge fund, the best Wall Street traders in the world, and how only 3 of them were able to beat it. But somehow Congress has no problem doing that. Maybe they should be in the hedge fund business after all. All right, so let's dig in and take a look at this. First, right off the bat, I want to show you this right here on the screen. You can see a poll says the overwhelming majority of Americans say that lawmakers should be banned from trading stocks. Now, what does this even mean in the first place? So, of course, you might have heard of a term called insider trading. And so what that means is that if you're an insider, if you work at a company or have some sort of inside information that most people don't have, you're not allowed to trade off that information. As a matter of fact, you're not just not allowed to, it's criminal. It's illegal in order to do that. You might have heard famously Martha Stewart went to prison because she was trading, she caught with this insider trading. And so people that have this information should not be allowed to trade. Now that applies for me, that applies for you, it applies for Martha Stewart, but it doesn't apply to Congress. As a matter of fact, most laws that we have today, for example, Biden's mandating all of you take an experimental medicine you may not want to take, they've exempted themselves. And so just like you can't do insider trading, they've exempted themselves, and they can. So back to the question, they say that the majority of Americans say that lawmakers should be banned from trading stocks, just like you and I. Now, I would have to say about that I think lawmakers, Congress, should have to follow every single rule that you and I do. They pass a law, a rule for me to follow. Why would they not have to? Obamacare, they don't have to do it. They don't want you to fly, they fly their private jets. They want to force you to take the medicine, they don't have to. You can't do insider trading, but of course they can. Let's keep digging in here. The majority of Americans believe members of Congress should be banned from trading stocks while in office because, of course, they're the ones that are passing the laws, they're the ones that are putting the stimulus money in, they're the ones that are driving the market. Of course they have insider information, so of course they should be banned from trading stocks while in office. Among a sample of Americans likely to vote in general elections, 76% believe the lawmakers should not be allowed to trade in stocks. Who are the others? Who are the other 14%? I'd like to know that. It says only 5% of respondents actually approved of lawmakers trading stocks. And then, of course, 19 had no opinion. Those 19% shouldn't be voting anyway, I suppose. But back to good old House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She addressed the questions because she has been getting a lot of flack, like I said, on Twitter. There's actually an account, the Nancy Pelosi tracker, which has been tracking this. A lot of people wonder how on less than $200,000 a year, being in office for whatever, 30, 40 years at this point, has managed to make a portfolio of about $200 million. Imagine if you could make $200,000 a year and turn that into $200 million, you'd have to be a pretty darn good investor and probably not focus on your job too much. Anyway, so she, of course, has been getting a lot of flack for this. She addressed questions on the ethics of members of Congress trading stocks, prompted by a report that cataloged all the lawmakers' trading activity. And of course, as I said, she's a frequent trader who's profited significantly during her time in Congress. of course, she defended this practice. She went on to say, "This is a free market and people," Pelosi said. "We are a free market economy and we should be able to participate in that." Well, I agree 100%. We should be a free market and we should all be able to participate in it. However, the laws and regulations that you're putting into place make it less of a free market. And the fact that you have the information and you're going to place your bets before you pass the laws should exempt you. So while I do agree with her, we should be a free market economy and we should be able to participate in it, yes, but not if you're the one that is changing the rules. As it says here, that the practice has drawn a lot of criticism from other lawmakers who don't like that, of course. And apparently 76% of voters don't like it either. But let's dig into some of the numbers here. All right, so let's look at this. So first of all, the S&P 500 last year had one of its best year in history, and we have some amazing hedge funds in the United States of some of the best traders in the world that focus on this. And let's look at their performance. So we can see here we have a 46% return, 25%, 24, 23, 20, 19, 18. And you can see going down the line, Bridgewater down here, 0.3%, Tiger, 3%, some of these big names that you see down here, 0.72, 7.4%, and on Citadel up here at 18%. Of course, down here, Melvin Capital, you remember Melvin Capital, of course, they were the ones that got their butts kicked by GameStop, and the Reddit traders lost 41%. But if only a handful of the most successful, the most professional hedge funds in the world could beat the S500, as a matter of fact, only 3 beat it. Now, how is it that 35 politicians could beat that? So let's take a look at this. So here we have, let me see if I can fix this a little bit. So here we have number 1, Austin Scott. He is a Republican. Austin Scott beat it by the most. Brian Mast, French Held, John Curtis, Dan Crenshaw were in the top 5. Nancy Pelosi, who gets a lot of flack, actually only came in 6th place. Now, all of these people should probably not be in politics, and they should be going to get a job in finance, because apparently they're much better. Of course, David Rouser, Dave McKinley, Peter Welch, Debbie Dingle, Jim McLavin, Michael Guest, and you can see the rest of them down here. Now, as Nancy Pelosi said, it's a free market. They should be able to participate in it. I get that, and I agree. However, not when they have the insider information. Now, if we look at this report, Conflicted Congress, key findings from insiders' 5-month investigation into federal lawmakers' personal finances. And so they did this report. Dozens of federal lawmakers and at least 180 top staffers have violated a conflict of interest law. It says numerous members of Congress personally invest in industries that they oversee. And of course, it says here, few face serious consequences legally or otherwise. They go on to talk about how the U.S. House and Senate have eviscerated their own ethical standards, avoided consequences, and blindsided Americans. So they're passing these laws and benefiting from that. So here's a couple good examples. Nearly 75 federal lawmakers who held stocks related to we'll call it the cerveza sickness, makers, we're going to leave some of this out, 75 federal lawmakers benefited from that, held those stocks, with many of them buying or selling these stocks in the early weeks of the pandemic. So before they voted to make them mandatory, they made sure to buy the stock of these companies. Before they voted to give the money to those companies, they made sure to buy those companies. We can see 15 lawmakers who tasked with shaping U.S. defense policy actively invest into military contractors. So if you buy a military contractor stock, how do you think you're going to vote when it comes to giving those companies more money or going back to war? So you start to get the idea. We can see even here, numerous Capitol Hill staffers are themselves saddled with student loans at a time when Congress is considering erasing student loan debt. Does that sound like a conflict of interest to you? It certainly does to me. And no wonder Nancy Pelosi is getting so much flack. And not just her, as I said, she's the 6th ranked person in office that managed to beat the S&P 500 last year. Like I said, they should probably go get jobs on Wall Street because they're much better investors than they are politicians. And I guess it's as they say, right? Rules for thee and not for me. Anyway, that's what I got for today. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with the 75%? Should Congress, should the lawmakers be barred from participating in stocks while they're in office? Give me a yes. Or do you think it's perfectly okay that they could put their money in and vote at the same time? Give me a no down below. Either way, let me know what you think. And of course, give me a thumbs up on this video if you like it. If you don't like the video, that's okay. Give me a thumbs down. That's okay. Either way, but leave me a comment and let me know. That's what I got for you today. All right, to your success. I'm out.